Greetings and welcome to the 61st episode of Retro Rant. The Commodore Amiga takes center stage again with a classic game, James Bond Underwater Agent, also released for the Archimedes, the ST and the Mega Drive in 1990 by Millennium Interactive. The game was fairly successful, spawning 2 sequels, 3 if you include aquatic games. Now, if you're following this channel, you might know already that I consider James Bond 2 Robocod to be one of the best Amiga games of all time. I adored it back in the day, and I adore it now. I also had fond memories of the first James Bond game, so I was eager to revisit it so as to scratch that retro itch. So let's see if it is any worth revisiting or not, by Retro Rant standards. The environment was in danger even in 1990, and an evil corporation, ingeniously named Acme Oil Company and led by the notorious Dr. Maybe, starts imprisoning innocent sea creatures and filling the oceans with oil and toxic waste. No, this is not a Captain Planet scenario, although this too is a candidate for the Rant treatment. This time, a fish secret agent, James Bond, must come to the rescue, thwarting Dr. Maybe's plans in various missions with different objectives and ever-increasing difficulty. Of course, he has to fight against all sorts of minions and traps that threaten to turn Mr. Bond into toxic sushi. The graphics of James Bond are simply gorgeous, with beautiful vibrant colors, although a bit muddy at times with all these shades of brown and orange. The backgrounds have that typical Amiga OCS charm, and the sprites are nicely drawn and cute. Animation and scrolling are quite smooth, and the game has a very competent overall presentation. The sound is also of high quality, with wacky and James Bond-esque tunes that fit the game's setting perfectly, which are certain to put a smile on your face. There is a nice variety of pieces, and this is yet another fine work by the late Richard Joseph. The game offers simultaneous sound effects as well, which are quite competent. I also have no complaints about the game's controls, since everything behaves the way you would expect to when swimming, going above water, even when you drink the Jack Daniels that was very realistically thrown full into the ocean. Perhaps the administration of Acme Oil Company has issued a strict non-alcohol policy. The game's setting is also appropriately silly, filled with juvenile but good-natured humor and puns, mainly about James Bond movies. With all these, you would think that this game must be a corker. But you couldn't be more far from the truth. You see, James Bond is plagued by some awful design choices and one of the most unfair gameplays that you can find in the Amiga library. Beneath the humorous and cute exterior lies a core of sadistic intentions by people who apparently hate everybody playing this. Apart from the usual Euro platformer tropes that, personally, don't bother me very much, you will be constantly finding the poor hero dying through no fault of your own. James Bond reminds me of Sierra games as far as hating the player is concerned, but at least in Sierra's games the deaths were so funny that sometimes you went out of your way to see what other ridiculous deaths the developers could think. Also, in Sierra you could save the game. There are no such things in James Bond though, and you will constantly find yourself dying from nasty power-ups, small things in the background, invisible enemies, and so on. Going above water drains your health, which, although not fun, is realistic, but there is no excuse for seeing your health drain away in the bonus areas. The first 3 levels are innocuous enough, but after that all hell breaks loose. You have a gazillion items to collect, and the backtracking quickly becomes very tedious and frustrating. I am not one to shy away from difficult games, but unfair games really put me off. And James Bond is full of these deaths, and it is truly a shame since the game could have been a true Amiga gem. Overall, I would recommend James Bond only as a masterclass on bad game design choices. I still cannot understand why this sugar-coated turd was so loved back in the day, maybe because of the general cuteness that was so in back then. I suggest you skip this one entirely and play the sequel James Bond Robocod instead. So that's it for now. Don't go diving for Jack Daniels in the ocean, and I'll see you next time.